to the finals last year, and now they come into this Worlds. Maybe they're the pre-tournament favorites. Then that confidence was shaken, but now they are back and poised and looking stronger than ever to make this run if they can close out this or any of the next 3 games in this series.
So the one small change here is that Jace replaces Jin from our Game 1 bans. So potential, Spray was the first person to bring Jin into the meta in Korea, but this tells you a lot, and this is something that teams will not go amiss going into the semifinals.
Exactly.
Zyra, specifically for these Korean teams, has ascended to first pick status even over the Caitlyn, because Zyra Jin is just as strong a lane as Caitlyn Zyra.
I agree with you. The Zyra has been the story of the quarterfinals for these teams, aside from the total dominance of the Korean region. One thing I'm a little surprised about, not even with the draft phase, is that EDG is stuck with Scout for the 3rd game. I was expecting Pond to come in when they're down 0-2 and try and rescue EDG once again like he had done so many times in the past, but they want to play with the mid laner who they went undefeated with, and I can't fault them for that.
And we'll see what other changes are up here. This time he's not early picking the Rise, so maybe something else is in the mind of Scout or maybe of Rapid Star as they wait to see what they actually want to pick in here. I would definitely wait for a mid lane pick last, because getting some pressure back in onto Kuro could be incredibly important. And right now they're looking at maybe a top lane and support pick.
If they blind the Rumble, I think we will see Cannon from Smeb. He's actually 7-0 on that champion. They do lock in the Rumble. Cannon was a champion he played out of meta last year. They actually had 3-way flex on ROX Tigers, playing support, AD carry, and top lane Cannon. Maybe we'll even see something a bit more frisky, because you know ROX Tigers are playing with so much confidence right now.
And that's the thing. A lot of times ROX Tigers are more relaxed than other teams, which can also make them more likely to just do whatever they want. Look at the laughs coming in from the entire lineup here on the cams. And I actually wouldn't be surprised to see something a little cheeky from them in these last 2 picks, but we'll see what type of champions they end up locking in.
Top lane Kha'Zix, do it, Smeb. I believe in you. It's unlikely.
With the ROX Tigers, there's always that outside chance.
I'm just hoping. See, that's okay too. He just needs to style in this one. That's what all the fans are hoping for, is something flashy.
Look at it, he does.
And he's gonna lock in the Fiora!
It's style time, guys. Smeb's gonna have a good time, and people wanted to see the guy to justify first in the world in terms of players above Faker, and when he's played that Fiora, it has been poetry.
Yeah, interesting that they don't go with the Reliant Sol at all because of the mid lane pressure they've had elsewhere, but I think that is because they really want to be able to play around that Fiora, and it's not like it's a bad matchup up against the Rumble. It can definitely have some snowball potential.
So I actually like going for the Rise here, just to show Rise. If Kuro can show the same level of play on Rise that he did on Aurelion Sol, think of the teams, especially on red side, who already have to ban Nidalee and Elise, and now you're just struggling between what the hell is that last 3rd ban.
I think there's definitely 2 sides to that argument, because if you can play it and dominate with it, well, then you want to be able to show that with a victory in your next series, whereas now you're just kind of confusing the pick and ban if you can show effectiveness on it. It could also just be to have more practice against the Aurelion Sol and see if you can manage it on the other side, because like we said, there is margin for error for the ROX Tigers right here with the dominating 2-0 lead they've jumped out to.
And keep in mind, Rise was the earlier picked mage every single game this series. It was a contest, let's try to take it away from them from Edward Gaming. Scout tried to take the Rise away from Kuro, lost the Aurelion Sol matchup. Now saying, okay, you're right, we'll try to play the other side of it, and ROX Tigers can do just that and potentially smash the game just as hard as before. The games have looked more and more convincing for ROX Tigers, but now, backs against the wall, Edward Gaming needs to make it the reverse sweep to get themselves into the semifinal. They must win 3 straight, and we'll see if they can do it. Coming in now to the 3rd and what could be the final game. Match point for South Korea's ROX Tigers here in Chicago, heading to the 3rd game.
Yeah, with the win, they would advance to face SK Telecom and have a rematch of last year's finals in the semifinals, which is a little bittersweet in this series, knowing that they would not get to face in the finals once again. But ROX Tigers, I think they want to finish strong here.
I mean, SKT 3 times have taken ROX Tigers out of tournaments right at the business end of them. The storyline for next week is set up, even if it's just for that one match.
And here we go. Amidst the cheering fans of Chicago, amidst all the people watching online, we might have SKT looking at ROX as their rematch opponent. Here we go, Game 3, ROX Tigers 2-0 up over Edward Gaming as we hit the Rift.
We do still have to talk about EDG, though, because when their backs are against the wall, they have been able to succeed this year. The undefeated best-of-3 record, being able to close out the sets, the 5-game series they won in the semifinals. The game they won against HQ at the end of the group stage were all moments where EDG had to get a gut check and then play better than the opponent. This has been the biggest possible gut check because they have been getting obliterated, and it is easy to roll over, but EDG have to not succumb to that, and they have to play better.
I mean, there's gut checks. That's what SKT received in Game 1 against RNG, and there's demolitions like Game 2 of this series. So every game is match point for EDG. They are a great best-of-5 team, but with all the outside factors kind of factoring into where they're at right now, it'd be disappointing to see a team, a pre-tournament favorite, go out in this manner, but it's been a really rough tournament for EDG.
And Edward Gaming might be able to pull a little bit of support. Yeah, we're seeing Fervor for Koro 1. Didn't change his keystone from whenever he picked. Maybe it was he might have been running that on Kennen. But either way, Edward Gaming may be able to find some support from the audience here. As we were getting into the game, we were hearing GSM chants fight with EDG chants, actually. They're trying to overpower each other to cheer on. You know, their very favorite teams as well. Edward Gaming, as you'd mentioned before, definitely travels well. There are a lot of fans internationally, even here in America. And you hear that right now. This is the audience hoping that we have more than the 3-game sweep. And we'll see what happens.
Remember, if ROX Tigers do win, it's 3 Korean teams in the semifinals for the first time ever. You don't need a train whistle to know that that is pretty big domination from Korea.
Exactly. Their quarterfinals have been so impressive here, and they've really all shown up so far at Worlds here. It was close for ROX Tigers in the group stage. Lose one more game at the end of CLG there, or against G2 when they were down 7.7 thousand gold at 23 minutes to pull that game back.
Good trading, dodging the skill shot, but here comes Peanut
the
up the lane. This is going to be a tight one. Jumps in, and Scout doesn't even flash it, but they don't go in for it anyway. Peanut didn't follow the Q, I don't think.
He didn't hit the Q, he didn't
hit
flash.
Oh, I thought he hit it.
No, it went wide.
Oh, that confused me.
Very close, though. I mean, that's Peanut's reaction to the early shoving from the Aurelion Sol, trying to fight back from it and getting the 2 summoners down early. Then Clearlove just ghosting in right way at the end just to throw an axe at the minion wave doesn't really help matters too much.
But it is pretty massive that they're going to be able to get the really favorable back timing. Koro, it turns out, will stay in lane. Got the corrupting potion advantage for Scout is Koro, making a hell of a trade in top.
And he's already down 7 minions like he has been almost every single game this series to...
Yeah, and there's a jungle invade right now from Clearlove, though, recognizing that Peanut didn't start blue buff, trying to sneak in. Meanwhile, Peanut's like, that Olaf didn't have a red buff. Maybe I should go invade his red. Like ships in the night, they go try to steal each other's buffs.
But Peanut actually waiting around. He thinks Olaf's about to be joining him up here, and that's actually not the case. He's going to stick around near the top lane. Peanut wants to be available for what could be a top lane dive. Keep in mind, Sveb is pushed up so much. It wouldn't be a surprise to see Clearlove's Olaf come in and try to fight that, but Clearlove playing patiently so far, not exposing himself until just now he walks by the trinket ward.
Because they had so much top lane pressure with Smeb, they're actually either looking to take the red buff clean or just wait for Clearlove to start and then kill him. They know he has no ghost. So if they can catch him doing this with low mana and low health, it's over.
Fiora's missing, walks into the camp, actually gets away from the skill shots, but doesn't really matter. Smites for a bit of healing, trying to run out. One more hit will do it, and that's first blood in for Smeb in the top jungle.
There's just no information provided from Koro. Smeb was out of lane a long time. He wasn't on the ward. The ward was placed after the invade had happened. Worst case scenario for EDG. Now, a big lead for Smeb. No surprise, he gets the kill credit. Here's Peanut again.
CC back and forth, no summoners for Scout. He's got nowhere to go. That's going to be the assassination. Peanut gets one as well, 2-0, and Scout should have known better.
And really, where is the communication from EDG right now? Smeb missing for 15 seconds in the top lane after walking clean out of the lane. Clearlove doesn't care about it. He goes for red, he dies. But then after Clearlove dies, after Peanut misses the Q, you have to expect, hey, mid lane, there is a jungler taking our red buff. He's probably coming mid next, but that communication also falls through. Scout pushes up and without summoner spells and makes the gank easy for ROX.
He tries to play to the opposite side of the map, but that's not enough to play on that side of the river. Peanut's flash was still up if they needed it, and now this game's kind of off to the silly stories already.
Yeah, ROX Tigers have decimated EDG when EDG was playing a lot better. Now it really feels like EDG is mentally shattered because they are making mistakes I have never seen them make this year within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, they did it in pregame as well. You talk about the fervor that Koro1 picked up. That wasn't just using the Kennen mastery page. He had Thunderlords the last game. This was him clicking fervor instead of Deathfire Touch. A choice that I'm sure he's made hundreds of times playing League of Legends. The mastery's been out for a year at this point. It's not that hard to pick the right keystone, and this is what's happening to these teams.
I mean, the comfort seems to have just been completely gone from the Chinese teams. We saw the same mistake from RNG, of course, when it came to Mada taking wind speakers on Zyra. So just these small out-of-game mistakes to just take over. I mean, given with the gameplay already that we've seen, you just can't afford to make these very fixable mistakes outside of game when you're already backs against it in-game.
Now, the one saving grace for Edward Gaming is they do have a bot lane looking pretty good. Now, some of those farm numbers are inflated by last-hitting Zyra plants, but it's still actually a 13 last-hit lead right now for Def in the bottom lane. The gold may be a bit close. Now a stun on the Kuro as they want a bit of health. And, ooh, that's going to be a whiffed equalizer, but still, the damage comes through. A roam down for Koro1, helping with that one. Kill comes through to Scout.
Great job by EDG to take the initiative and punish the low wards in the river right there. They walked all the way down. Koro's able to make that roam on a recall pattern from Smeb, so the missing call didn't come through, and they then finally get one back on the ROX Tigers.
Sort of a sudden move we haven't seen all series as Koro teleports right into
He also
Smeb.
has no flash now.
Ulti in for Smeb, pops the Tiamat, goes in, can't quite get the last vital, but still plenty of damage dealt. Pops Riposte, and actually, Koro gets the better side of the trade, but that's not a good vital. That's an easy jump in for Smeb. It's going to be a tight one. And he's regenning up with the potion. Looks like it's going to be okay for Koro. Scout pushed out of his lane, though, by Peanut, and now they should know there's a ROX Tigers jungler on the top side.
Peanut's level 6 with flash. He would have loved to get the easy jump over there with the Krugs, but he is still going to be all in the hunt. All it takes is a flash kick to connect his Q.
Likely to be a kill. Walk into his face, kick into the wall. There's the Q. There's the chase in. Not even difficult. And flashed out to make it easy. That's a nicely played gank there by Peanut. Not even a problem.
Teleporting back into the middle of lane against a Tiamat Fiora who is level 6. Just should not happen at this level of play. Smeb is always going to take that chance, even if he didn't get the kill. The summoner spells were enough beside the map. We see ROX trying to set something up, but for now, worries about that turret.
Here comes Rise. Here comes a slow and a clear love. Going to get rooted as well. Going to save his ultimate for this one. Kuro spending some time down here to keep the turret afloat. You're not seeing a ton of turret damage, though. Edward Gaming making very slow progress down here.
Yeah, and a very conservative realm warp there by Kuro. You'd often think the Rise would come in behind them and try and turn a gank around, but he recognized that Prey and Gorilla were actually fairly pushed in there and just teleported in to clear the wave. The question is now, we were in a similar situation last game where ROX was trying to seize this turret with the Caitlyn, but this time EDG is not as coordinated in their push. Scout staying in the mid lane, Def very low on health and mana. They don't have the same presence when trying to push in this turret.
It's the reverse matchup in the mid lane, and Kuro is still the one to roam first, still the one getting more farm, still the one with all the pressure. He's just simply playing it much, much better.
And they're not losing minions to the turret either. Peanut was smart, went from Raptors to the mid lane to pick up the DS coming in. Over a pink ward, so he's spotted.
Looking for the play on the top side of the map. Smeb gonna have to flash away from this. Will riposte the stun. Nicely played here. And now in with the ultimate, but he's running out of health rapidly. Voice of Light, and the drill comes through. The drill of Defiance. There's a kill finally in for Edward Gaming in the top lane. Bringing it a bit closer, and it's only 300 gold apart, but Scout wants back. Yep, gets away from Peanut. Not too much damage dealt there. He's going to be able to get back to the base and back to the mid lane.
The game has opened up, but EDG are rolling with the punches.
He's getting a little greedy. He wants to kill with Koro in his face. Definitely delaying recall.
But it is really good after that start to see EDG rolling with the punches. They're actually going for counterplay. They're not just accepting after those first 2 kills. A different game, a different psyche. You kind of give up at that point, but they're rolling with the punches, and this was another really nice roam from Scout.
Completely agree, and one of the big reasons people were talking about Scout over Pawn is because of how apt he is to roam to the top lane. That was to help out Mouse. This one is to help out Koro. Koro, even though he had been punished for teleporting in the lane, is able to get one back on Smeb. They also burn the flash, which just makes things better.
And a ton of CC now onto Mako. He's getting shot down. Nice play by Def. Oh, but Mako gets himself out of the way and takes the shot anyway. That's a poor misplay, and a kill comes through to ROX.
And then he healed after the fact because he was really expecting to have the angle on that one, but Prey just manages to get the angle because Deft and Mako were not in line.
Strangely, Gorilla panic flashed afterwards. I don't know if it was a celebration, but regardless. Flash down on the Zyra, maybe some counterplay around that.
And potentially so. And the weird thing as well, if you're willing to heal, you should heal at the very start. There's no reason to heal late, really, ever against the Jhin ultimate. Watch that fight again.
Exactly. It starts out very well, in a sense, because Deft is able to block shot 2.
Some of those Jhins can curve bullets, chat. That's all I know.
And some supports walk away from their teammates.
Celebration flag.
Woo! We did it! Who needs that? Not Gorilla.
Now here we go, another roam to the top lane, really trying to wedge this matchup open. Scout is here again. Rinse and repeat, back in onto Smeb. What's it gonna look like? Equalizer, not the best, but it still cuts off some of the retreat angles. Koro takes Zachar, but Voice of Light still gonna be enough. And another kill comes through. Top lane is actually finding some teeth now for Edward Gaming.
Absolutely, and Kuro's not able to match those, and Peanut's not there to show up because those aren't actually the cleanest ganks you would expect, but they just have so much more power up there when they send Aurelion Sol.
You're only purely getting kills from them, though, not objectives. That's why you see Rise pushing into mid, but certainly gets their confidence up, which is another underrated part of League of Legends, that after those 2 losses, getting some kills, especially to Koro, who has been bullied out of top 2 games in a row, can only help the communication, because it's so much easier to get precise communication out when you've got a little bit of confidence in your belt.
Exactly. You cannot underestimate the impact of an effective play when you just lost a game in 25 minutes by 20,000 gold. It's so important that EDG get this confidence and continue to push. And also, because ROX decided to go with this Fiora, who you want to be able to snowball ahead, it lowers their wave clear. It doesn't allow them to actually defend these sieges too well if EDG's able to set up them. It's EDG that have the Aurelion Sol and the Hyper Carry and Caitlyn. So if they do get an edge, they can still rotate towards these lanes and just kind of push ROX off and make it a necessity that ROX try a risky team fight if they can keep making these plays and actually create a goal.
The last time Fiora was in the meta, a big pick that was played around it was Lulu mid, because then you could actually allow Fiora to go in, choose the target, wild growth, slowing and knocking up enemies. There's no such utility on the side of ROX. Sure, they have snares, sure, they have AoE, but this is very much Smeb going for a lane-focused pick and being punished for overextending.
And it's still a team with no tanks, much like the Game 1 composition. If it starts to fall flat, you can get evaporated by an Equalizer and Hurricane Caitlyn. Deft is the damage share king. He is the hard carry of Edward Gaming. Laning phase so far so good for him. The tools of a Game 3 win are definitely in the toolbox for Edward Gaming, but it's a very tight game. It is still a lead for ROX Tigers. We just have to see more happen.
Given the early ganks onto the enemy jungler and mid, you might think, okay, Drake's stacking up, but actually no Drake started yet because of all the map pressure that has been applied. Clearlove's mid.
Yeah, Ghost on, though, for Kuro means not too many difficulties for him. Saves both summoners, had him in case he needed it. And Clearlove continues to have no effect at all in this series. No kills resist for him. Even when he walked to the mid lane, didn't do any damage last time around. So this Olaf sort of denial from Peanut so far, not meaning a lot.
Yeah, and you wonder if we're going to see a 2v2 in the mid lane here. Both mid laners really cheating to their side with the jungle. This actually gives an opportunity for EDG to roam bottom if they wanted to try something really aggressive. Koro could even teleport in the theoretical world, but the roam could match the pink ward. Very important for ROX there.
They do go through the vision. Quick ulti on Prey to soften him up. Nice little
want the turret.
there, but they've got 4 members to knock down this turret. The flashless Gorilla has to be a little bit careful.
Fiora's coming
Lands
in.
the root, and they don't quite dedicate themselves to knocking the turret down. Naka comes through onto 3. How much more is the
Fiora's
re-engage
here.
gonna grab? Smeb and Peanut are here. A late teleport for Koro. It's a 5v4 momentarily, but the kickback doesn't land the root. Now Mako gonna run out of health. Voice of Light plus Equalizer getting a little bit more, and Gorilla running down, but no! He eats a trap! Can they find any more? A Realm Warp doesn't quite get him out! And look at all the kills for Edward Gaming! It's 3-1! Now, maybe a little bit more coming through. Smeb wants it, and he finds the check down. Gets healed up a little bit more, and now getting barbecued to the backside. Takes a harpoon to the back, and a snipe in for Deft. Edward Gaming with the lead.
It's exactly what ROX didn't want to happen. EDG set up with the siege. ROX try to fight them off of it, but they lose the fight and the turret, and EDG has their biggest lead of the series.
ROX, like their support Gorilla, may have started celebrating a bit too early. Sure, they were way ahead in this series and in the early game. They had the early teleport coming in, but they don't have the same sort of item leads that they did in previous games.
Exactly. The level 9 Fiora teleporting in is much different than a Spirit Visage Maokai, for instance. They have no lockdown when that happens, and Koro arrives, does get an ultimate down that hits Prey. It wasn't the best ultimate, but then the Flame Spitter that comes in afterwards is very effective. Clearlove stays in the fight, lands the axes, and while Smeb does pick up a kill on the backside, that too costs him his life because EDG is able to chase him down on the backside.
The heal field came in earlier, maybe on the first target, just to have a burst of healing for the rest of the team. Maybe the fight goes different, but bit of greed there from ROX. Doesn't pay off, and EDG with their first gold lead at 15 minutes.
You can see actually some real participation for the rest of Edward Gaming now. It actually wasn't just Deft 1 versus 5 hoping his team would pick up the dead weight, but it was actually 1700 from this Rumble from Koro with a great equalizer, and you can see staggering numbers out of Scout's Aurelion Sol. It seems that the change in mid lane pick seems to be worth it, and even though these teams are happy to early pick the Rise, it's the Aurelion Sol who's doing more so far in these games. 1,500 gold lead for Edward Gaming. We'll see what else they can do.
You really can't overstate how much Scout has done because he's basically doing Clearlove's job for him. He's the one that was ganking top lane, making the plays around top. The Aurelion Sol, the mobility that he has on this kit has really been what has changed from the previous game. It's much easier to jungle when your mid laner does the ganking part for you.
Yeah, the power of Aurelion Sol, and kind of displaying the reasons why so many of us analysts thought he was going to be a high priority pick ban champion in this tournament, as we're seeing a lot of effectiveness in this series. Of course, as the game gets super late, the damage does fall off, and you would then want to Rise to have the insane teamfight power, but in this situation, because it allows you to get a Caitlyn to that point, you don't necessarily care as much about the late game fall off. But we also have to remember, this is still the ROX Tigers. They were still dominant in the first two games, and it is but 1,700 gold that they are behind. Not to mention, Koro is a fervor of battle Rumble.
That's true. His top level damage is, I mean, most of that ability to scales off the raw ability power anyway, so it means more and more over time that he's missing that keystone. But again, the trade in the mid lane, minions blocking the overload. Scout still takes one and gonna slink away for this one. But yeah, ROX Tigers are, to be fair, actually used to playing with some level of a deficit. Domestically in South Korea, they actually get behind plenty often and still won the regular season and won the playoffs. And you know, this is not exactly unfamiliar territory for ROX Tigers to pull themselves back up in this game and complete the 3-game sweep. But we'll see, only 17 minutes in.
Exactly. Now we have to think about the next steps that these teams should be taking and what should EDG do with their lead, because remember, ROX doesn't have great wave clear or a great way of actually getting into fights. So EDG should be rotating this Caitlyn around as much as possible, go to the lowest wave clear lane, which is Smeb's lane, and trying to push down that turret. It's even better if they could kill Smeb before they arrive for the siege.
Oh, that's Smeb jumping back into the core because suddenly here's the rest of the squad. He's going to block the ulti, but now comes Peanut, and maybe he shouldn't have been here at all. That's one kill picked up for Deft. The rest of the squad is now here as well, and Peanut's got nowhere to go. The kick means not very much, but still, they get the kill through with Deft. That's good enough there for Edward Gaming. 9-6 the scoreline. Almost a 3,000 gold lead, pushing top lane outer.
And now Scout's trying to go for more. Will ROX trying to defend this turret.
Gets the stun on the Gorilla. The knockup's going to mean nothing. That's another one picked up. Mako makes his mark. 10-6. Look at this game.
We were just talking about it. That was EDG's next move, and somehow it catches ROX by surprise. They didn't think EDG would be there for the play, and even though EDG was throwing equalizers in one direction and ultimates in the other, they still managed to overpower ROX, get the kills, and take the turret.
I really liked Koro sucking in Smeb, trying to make him come in aggressively. It worked. They got the extra kill. Peanut stuck in no man's land. Hold on to the kick for a long time. Got very little from it, and this is just an attempt to keep this turret up as long as possible with the Jhin ultimate.
Plenty of damage back and forth, trying to snipe down, and yes, with the minions gone, it's Edward Gaming who have to wait a little bit longer. Plenty of gold in their pockets, in fact. We've got over 1,300 on everybody except one. So watch that fight again.
Yeah, Clearlove was actually really patient here, but Smeb just decides to go all in. They want level 1, that's just a bit of a spectator bug, but the moment that this happened, the numbers advantage was there for EDG.
Exactly. Clearlove as well, able to stick close to Peanut, the equalizer. Does allow the final kill to be picked up by Deft, but then even after the fact, when they have 5 people there, Gorilla trying to defend the turret 5v3 when they're going to have the siege anyway is a little inexcusable, and it means they're down 4,000 gold.
What's funny about that final kill with the equalizer is it was subtly really a good equalizer. The reason being, if Peanut was going to live, it's him safeguarding to a minion and getting away, and if he does that, he just jumps onto the equalizer and dies.
Fair enough.
So Koro might have been a mastermind there and outthought all of us with the missed equalizer.
What we're seeing in this game is the ROX Tigers, when they fall behind, they're not teams like Samsung and SKT. They are much more likely to try and throw themselves for picks, look for fights even when they're behind. Sure, we've seen other times, especially last year, where they could pull games to late, but ROX more often than not in the regular season in Korea would go for those big plays and kind of go big or go home.
Well, I would also say that that is forced by this composition that they picked themselves into. When they pick the Fiora in the top lane, they need to be able to push them off these turrets. Otherwise, they will just siege down everything. Scout is in a lot of trouble here, actually.
Goes to get away. Nice flash. Times it properly with Smeb's Q to make sure that goes on the long cooldown, missing his target. But that is double summoners down for Scout with just the cost being Smeb's ulti. Much shorter cooldown for Smeb's.
We also talked before the game about how forget about the ROX Tigers of the group stage, weeks 1 and 2. Remember the ROX Tigers from the regular season. But in the group stage, they had a lot of team compositions that maybe didn't make a whole lot of sense. They did lose the game to the Aurelion Sol and the Caitlyn because they fell a little bit behind early, and then they got out-pushed by the immense roaming power of the Aurelion Sol. That ROX Tigers is actually rearing back here as they were hoping to close out the series in style by picking the Fiora.
I mean, I can guarantee that the champion select comms was, I want to play Fiora from Smeb, and they just kind of went with it, just like with the Nocturne pick earlier in the series. And this is something ROX will do from time to time. First game of a best of 3. In this case, it's third game of a best of 5. When they feel like they have the latitude, they can go for these picks that are very much just them trying to flex their muscles, and it's credit to EDG that they can actually punish for that for them, at least in the first 20 minutes.
Exactly, and they need to, really, because at the end of the day, it is 3 wins that gets you through to the next stage, and ROX Tigers did feel with the Fiora pick that they were trying to show off a little bit, so if EDG can just get that 1 win, even if it's not likely that they win the next 2, they have to be able to just stay in it and make sure that they can punish this Fiora.
Mako back and forth, gets shot. Good job by Prey, predicting 3 out of 4 times which way he would juke. Gets him very low. I think if he had actually gotten all 4 correct, might have gotten the kill into Mako at the very end, but either way, it does chunk the health bar down, but Ever Gaming, even without the health bar, their support player are gonna go ahead and try to take down this Cloud Drake, and seems easy enough to do. No one gonna contest them whatsoever. Peanut, nope, not gonna be there quite in time. 2 seconds away from having a chance at it.
Yeah, the ward coverage is around Baron for ROX Tigers. That's the far bigger objective for them to play around.
Oro bait again. They can sneak Deft into this brush.
It's there, but the rest
ROX
of
is also here with Rise.
This is a bit of a 2 versus 3. Do they have the damage on Smeb? 1 more shot will do it. They switch back into Kuro. They get 1. Now how's the trade kill gonna work? He's gonna get a crit, and Deft gets it. Now the battle versus Gorilla Flash. The deals through the Ignite and is running through tier low. Get their vengeance. All said and done, though, still advantage Edward Gaming 3-2.
That was some vintage Deft mechanics right there with the flash, but still died on the back end.
Scouts around the back.
Mirlov's here to help. Prey is running out of health pretty rapidly, but gets the 1 kill picked up. Another execution kick out of Peanut. Another 1 for 1, and now it's time for Peanut to run, but he's on the long cooldown. Nice Q to the Baron Nashor pit and gets himself away.
Still overall, the 4 for 3 trade, and Scout looking to see if he can find an angle, but not to be.
He's gonna be fine. Ocean Drake regen kicks in, and all is going to be well here. 14-9, the gold lead still about 4,000 here for Edward Gaming.
And look at the way Deft plays this fight. He got the trap right at the start. The Zyra bailed out on the play at the very end. That's going to have a big impact, and that allows Deft to trigger all the headshots. He was in the brush for so long, flashed out at the very end. And those cheeky little plants in the brush that Deft wasn't even thinking about at the end of that fight get the last hit.
You don't have that Zyra passive anymore to look for the kills from Death, but the plants do the job for you this time.
Yeah, Deft can outplay all the human characters, but the AI gets him at the end of the day.
He'll stay in ranked queue, I guess.
Yeah.
No co-op versus AI for him. Unfortunately, I think if he did run to the right, Prey would have been in range for an auto attack, so he was kind of in a darned if you do, and he did. Well, Deft gonna get not quite rooted, actually. Prey wasn't in range. It's okay. Still a tight game, 4,000 up. Edward Gaming, once again, trying to play the control. They've got the outer turrets down already, and Dragon's dead and will be for quite a few minutes. They've got to find something else to do.
Yeah, even though EDG has looked a little chaotic at times, I think they're going to win this game because Deft is so incredibly far ahead on Caitlyn, and the composition suits him. Notice how he's actually going for rapid-fire cannons, the 3rd item. We've seen a lot of Caitlyn's have to go Last Whisper on the 3rd item to cut through an armor user, but there is so little armor that ROX can actually put up, not to mention they have the setup of the Aurelion Sol and the shielding of Karma, that if they just group up, and fight with depth, I think they win. This is the kind of stuff they need to avoid, though.
And that's going to be a pretty quick kill on the Scout. Does get some decent damage on a Prey, but not enough to matter. And you're seeing ROX Tigers pulling the trigger, saying we are not going to go quietly into the night. We're going to find these 3v1 kills. They knocked that one down. The repeated attempts to claw back in. Very smart by ROX. They finally get one to pay off here.
And even though it's been a really bloody game, 24 kills in 25 minutes, there isn't the same sort of ward coverage that ROX Tigers was able to get when they're ahead compared to EDG. Obviously, the margin is a little bit smaller, but there isn't really many ways for EDG to punish three-man rotations to the top lane. And it's been kind of team deathmatch for the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it's been a much more chaotic game, but I want to reiterate that everything that has worked for EDG have been when they've grouped the Aurelion Sol with the Caitlyn and pushed, because there are very few correct answers that the ROX Tigers have that aren't fight. Yep. And if ROX Tigers fight, because of the advantage of Def now that he's completed his rapid fire cannon, I think they win those fights. So EDG just need to maybe not even care about shoving out all the lanes and just push straight down wherever the farthest outer turret is, which is in the top lane or the bottom lane, and just force ROX to come to them.
I like some of the itemization choices here. We see Seeker's Arm Guard, a Chain Vest onto the mid laner, and the armor predictably onto Clear Love, but just some armor, because the 2 flat armor penetration items, 2-item spike from the Jhin is very powerful, and someone is going to be in the front line, may not even be the Olaf. So just having some armor to not be deleted outside of range is very important.
Here comes the attempt, going to be the Rune Prison in towards Koro, puts the equalizer down, but just not enough damage dealt nearly rapidly enough. And again, it's ROX Tigers finding a kill in a side lane with Edward Gaming late to react.
They're doing exactly what they need to do to win this game. They are preventing EDG from grouping up as a 5-man unit, and this can start the Fiora split push. It's a Ravenous Hydra with a wave in a decent spot. This could be just the first of many turrets that Smeb take in a split push.
The fact that they get the objective here is oh so sweet when they picked up the kill just before. So finally shutting down Koro like they were able to do in games 1 and 2. But this does cede over Baron control to EDG.
Exactly, but it's also incredibly dangerous for them because they do not have a true answer to Smeb. So I just mentioned that I think EDG can win a game by grouping and forcing fights, but if they do not force the fights, Smeb will solo win this game because even if he's 3-5 on Fiora, that champion scales like none other when you're comparing it to what EDG has on the team right now.
And you talk about initiation, is that an axe from Olaf? Is that Aurelion Sol getting very, very frisky, pretty much has to come from the front? I think it's more about the Baron control and forcing Fiora to react rather than, you know, a linear initiation like a Malphite, obviously.
And sometimes those moments are finding those flank kills. We had seen Smeb ganks earlier on in this game. It was Scout roaming out of his lane, getting behind him, but you're seeing Smeb give the proper respect over. He backed off as soon as Scout went into Fog of War, and those flanks aren't happening, and he's still safe in that split push.
Smeb is considering another all-in if he sees Rumble. This is another time where ROX is very different in that he doesn't have anywhere near the ward coverage he needs to go for this aggressive trade, but ROX don't play the same level of methodical League of Legends as other Korean teams.
Right, it's not enough words to guarantee that he's alone, but if you're a smart enough player to think about where would I be if I were Scout, you say, no one should be in this jungle, this is probably fine. And you might be wrong, but he's right enough that they won over in South Korea, that they're coming in here 2-0 in this series.
And he's been there so long that
Koro doesn't expect it. He doesn't need to go in there. Very smart to get the pink ward.
Very smart to ward it, and Clear Love's around the window as well. So here comes the chase. He's got a couple of slows, but here's a Realm Warp, and Kuro is going to bring him to safety. Smeb doesn't even have the flash to get away.
Gorgeous timing for the escape right there. But still a strong play by EDG, suspecting that Smeb would be laying in wait, getting the pink ward down, taking the Drake, and even though they didn't get a kill, they can still now go and get Baron control because the wave is shoved, the Drake is taken, and they can move straight for Baron.
Not going to have an easy chance getting onto Peanut right there. Nice ward hop over the wall, definitely done by him. And now it's EDG trying to pull the trigger on Baron.
Yeah, and Peanut's going to want to steal. He's had a great steal rate on this one, but you try and zone him with the Aurelion Sol, and you actually want to take a 50-50 if they go for it.
And here comes the teleport in from Smeb. Scout is in the front line, losing a lot of health, and rises on him, and Scout's going to lose his life at the very start of it. That's going to get him popped with the Guardian Angel. Now it's Smeb still chasing through Koro, jumping into the Baron pit, but Deft is still alive in the back line. Scout will go down to Smeb. The re-engage on Koro, though, is good. That's a lot of damage on Caitlyn, and Equalizer kind of splits up the team. Koro buying what time he can with the Zodias, but still goes down to the plants. Meanwhile, Def and it's Clear Love picking up everybody. That is 4 kills for Edward Gaming, and the resulting 3v1 is Peanut still alive.
He is, and we've seen this story before. Just when it looks like ROX will lose at a Baron fight, Peanut comes around the side.
Oh, Def going big! 2 more shots will do it! He's gonna knock down Peanut, and that was a huge both play.
Should be Baron over to EDG. The Guardian Angel so important. No healing field coming through from the Fiora. No real way to re-engage that fight, and free Baron to EDG.
9-1-5 on Deft. Beautiful play by Deft in that fight. I will say EDG got a little scattered around the Baron pit. This has been a pretty scattered game, but he was always doing the maximum DPS.
Gorilla almost picked off at the start of the fight. Just look at the target selection here from Smeb. We're waiting to see where that ult was used. It's used onto Koro, actually. I apologize there. But the healing field, because he's just kiting, and the time that it took to kill the Guardian Angel means that it wears off and no healing.
Also note that he kited towards the Guardian Angel, so Smeb didn't want to follow through, but really it's Deft on the backside of this fight. He had traps already set up. He gets the Karma shield to come through, and he's able to execute. And then because they have the Olaf and the Karma enough to just shield the Baron, as soon as Peanut looks for the steal, note the very quick pink ward as well to make sure that Peanut can't come over the top. Deft is like, Peanut, I've seen this story before. Immediately shoots him, hops over the wall, knows he's got the Karma speed from over the wall from Mako as well, which was incredibly clutch in allowing him to catch him. And now they execute. Smeb's trying to push top lane. EDG's going for the mid inhib.
Continuing to push all 10 players alive, but Baron buff going strong. Mid lane 2-2 already gone. 6,000 gold lead into the inhibitor turret.
In that last fight, Deft out-damaged every member of ROX Tigers put together. This is the Deft we know. 40% damage shares, 50% damage shares. They got that last hit on the inhibitor, and EG don't want to go down 3-0.
Edward Gaming finding extra morale on the back of the audience here in the Chicago Theater and finding morale off the 7,000 gold lead they've built for themselves. Okay, yes, Smeb able to split push one thing down, but it doesn't mean as much as that middle inhibitor does.
But if Smeb was grouped, they would not have kept the inhibitor up. So it's still good that they're trading objectives, but EG not done with this Baron buff. Still 50% uptime.
Exactly. They want to be able to push through for the second inhibitor. Smeb would actually want to solo kill Koro to force something back, but he is now, if he completes this teleport to go back to base, with Koro having the teleport, this means EDG is in for it. They're going for the second inhibitor.
Looking for the CC on a scout. Plenty of knockbacks to kick in for Peanut. It's a trade of 1-for-1 jungler for mid laner, but maybe that's a good thing for ROX Tigers. It's now the rest of the fight to go. Minion waves running out, though. The snipes don't mean too terribly much from Craze Jin.
Deft doesn't have a tremendous amount of lifesteal here, aside from his Keystone Mastery, but without the mid lane, they don't have as much setup. They still want to go.
Top of the traps, couple of shields coming through, finding a few auto attacks to get some purchase here. Ocean Drink may help when they disengage. One more shot will do it. Turret goes down, and it's still the 4v4. And it's a 4v4 with an 8,000 gold lead, making it quite difficult for ROX Tigers to really want to push in onto this one. A few more shots come in for Smeb, and Edward Gaming says, you know what, this is good enough for us. We're going to disengage, going to reset the fight, and come back to our base, buy some new items.
Yeah, Peanut was going to be alive in 10 seconds, and EDG did not want to opt in to a 4v5, even if Deft is incredibly strong. But that is a lot of progress that they needed to make, and because they pushed that wave in so far, it's a very long time before Smeb could set a push coming back towards that lane. So instead of going for the explosion inhibitor, I think EDG is actually going to be going for the open turrets on the bottom side, since they are mainly concerned with Smeb's ability to take their own inhibitors, and he hasn't even started on the other waves. So they may as well push the lane in which Smeb started.
This feels like Smeb's job right now is to try and take the easier objectives. He's pushing in a wave, doesn't have the coverage to take outer turrets, but just keep the gold lead in touching distance. No 20,000 lead here. It's 7,000, which is still pretty apparent, but at the end of the day, Smeb can do his best to buy time. He was relentlessly ganked earlier in the game, but now in the grouping phase, you can get away with perhaps knocking out an outer turret.
You're seeing the pings on the map. It's actually EDG who pinged not only their own outer turret, but also Smeb's brush. So they're acutely aware of the play ROX Tigers is going for. Smeb, level 17, will have incredibly long death climbers, and EDG, knowing what was going on. Smeb sniffed it out, but with the red buff on, does it even matter? Running for his life, the flashes to chase, the flash to run. Smeb, voice of light, and the kill for Deft. He's unstoppable. The stun of the Peanut didn't even need to be there. 2-for-0 to Edward Gaming.
And already inhibitor down, they just go to where they think Smeb's gonna be. They catch him out. GA up on clear left, GA up on Deft. He's got a 5,000 gold lead against Prey. EDG is gonna look to end here.
Mid lane inhibitor already gone anyway. 40 seconds in the respawn for two members of ROX Tigers. Gorilla caught out as well, forced to flash. The chase is in. The kill comes through once again for the mid laner for Scout, Clearlove, Guardian Angel. Who even cares? The same popped here on the Aurelion Soul, but now it's on to the Nexus turrets. It's on for the comeback for Edward Gaming. They dropped the first two, but convincingly they take game 3 off the back of some excellent play. Deft 11, 1, and 8 on the Caitlyn, and that's game 3 going to Edward Gaming.
With their backs against the wall, and ROX trying to show a little bit of flair, Edward Gaming stay alive in this best-of-5 series, and Deft was incredible that game.
This was vintage Deft, as you say. Almost had a tremendous outplay, died to the plants in top, but kept up his level performance, outputted more damage than ROX Tigers in team fights in the late game. And ROX, their feet were off the ground, or so they thought. Suddenly, feet back on the ground. They need to regroup. They need to play a fourth game that did not look possible after those first 2 kills early in the game. The steadier for EDG was getting that first kill back in, targeting out the top lane and the Aurelion Soul, and how much work that did without even requiring them to bring in Clearlove, I think